Most people think an opportunity is just that, an opportunity. You find it, you take advantage of it, then it's on to the next one. But not all opportunities are the same. Some end when the opportunity ends. Others create the conditions for the next 10. I am Kyle Webb, and I believe that systems determine outcomes. Every month, I explore one idea about how we design better systems for business, investing, communities, and families, so more people can meaningfully participate in the creation of value. The systems we inherited, they shape our opportunities, but the systems we design shape tomorrow's opportunities. Today's idea, compound opportunity. One of the cleanest examples of compound opportunity is a company almost everyone has heard of, PayPal. Most people know the broad outline of the story, right? It was founded during the early days of the internet. It was acquired by eBay in 2002 for roughly $1.5 billion. Founders and early employees became crazy wealthy. It's really one of Silicon Valley's great startup success stories, but I don't think that's actually the story. I think that's just the first chapter. The acquisition wasn't what made PayPal extraordinary. What happened afterward is really what made it extraordinary. The people who built PayPal didn't just leave with financial capital, they left with credibility, with relationships, with experience, they left with trust. Every one of those became an input into the next opportunity. Capital funded new companies, relationships became partnerships, experience shortened the learning curve, credibility attracted investors, employees, and customers. For example, Peter Thiel co-founded Palantir and later Founders Fund. Elon Musk built SpaceX while transforming Tesla. Reid Hoffman founded LinkedIn. Steve Chen, Chad Hurley, and Jawad Karim created YouTube. Max Levchin founded Affirm. David Sachs launched Yammer before becoming one of Silicon Valley's most influential investors. The story just keeps writing itself. Through hundreds of investments, thousands of founders, companies that created more companies, investors who backed the next generation, founders who mentored the generation after that, that is compound opportunity. One opportunity creating the conditions for many, many more. But it's also worth being precise about what compounded and for whom. The PayPal Mafia's story is a story of extraordinary compounding. Thousands of jobs at Tesla, SpaceX, LinkedIn, Palantir, YouTube, Yelp, and Affirm. Thousands more throughout the suppliers, vendors, and portfolio companies. Billions in returns for the investors who backed those founders for a second and a third time. Entire industries accelerated because of a relatively small network of people. They kept building together. It's real and it's not nothing. But there were two distinctly different kinds of participation happening at the same time. The first one, the people at the center of the network participated as founders and owners, as investors, as board members, and as capital allocators. They didn't simply build companies. They repeatedly influenced which companies would be built next. This second group, they participated too. Employees, customers, suppliers, professional services firms, communities, their participation mattered enormously too. It created careers and livelihoods and innovation and economic growth. But let's be real, it was categorically different. One group participated in determining where future opportunity would emerge. That second group participated in the opportunities that emerged. Compound opportunity unquestionably happened. It just remained close to the center of the network with that first group. This isn't criticism, it's simply an observation. That's how the system worked. That's how the system works. Once I recognized that, another question became impossible for me to ignore. What would it look like to intentionally design compound opportunity in every decision we make, in every business we start? PayPal showed me that opportunities can compound. It also showed me that participation in compound opportunity can remain largely concentrated. That question led me to a place I suspect most people have never heard of. Mondragon. If you've never heard the name, you're not alone. I heard it from my dad when he was studying cooperatives. Mondragon isn't a technology company. It doesn't dominate headlines, doesn't produce celebrity CEOs. It rarely shows up in conversations about the world's most influential organizations. But for nearly 70 years, it has quietly become one of the most remarkable examples of institutional design I've ever encountered. To understand why, We have to first understand something most of us rarely think about: cooperatives. Most businesses answer one fundamental question the same way: who owns the company? Usually the answer is some combination of founders, shareholders, or outside investors. A worker cooperative answers that question differently. The people who work there own it. Employees aren't simply employees, they're owners. They elect the governing boards, they participate in major decisions, they share in the long-term success of the institution. That's a very different ownership structure than we're used to. But more importantly, it creates the possibility for a different opportunity structure. The story begins after the Spanish Civil War in the Basque region of northern Spain. Jobs were scarce, capital was scarce, opportunity was scarce. Young people were leaving because they couldn't see a future. Into that environment stepped a young Catholic priest named Jose Maria Arizmendiarreta. He wasn't trying to build a successful company. He was trying to rebuild a successful community. And that's where the story changes, because his first investment wasn't a factory, it wasn't a bank, it wasn't even a business. It was a school. Think about that. Before trying to create businesses, he first created people capable of building them. Education wasn't separate from economic development. It was the foundation of it. Years later, 5 graduates from that school started a small worker-owned manufacturing company called Ulgor. Most businesses' stories would call that a success. Mondragon didn't. It called that the beginning. As the cooperative grew, new constraints emerged. They needed financing, so they created a cooperative bank. They needed engineers and managers, so they expanded education. They needed innovation, so they built research centers. They needed more businesses, so existing cooperatives helped finance new cooperatives. Do you see what's happening? Every time they encountered a barrier, they didn't simply solve the problem. They built an institution. More than 80,000 worker owners around the world, universities, research centers, financial institutions, manufacturers, retailers, they're all connected within a single ecosystem. Those numbers are impressive, but they're not why Mondragon matters. Mondragon matters because it answered a different question than PayPal. PayPal showed that compound opportunity can emerge. Mondragon asked, what if we intentionally designed it? And that philosophy extended beyond ownership. It extended into governance, into compensation, into the very structure of the institution. Many public companies compensate CEOs hundreds of times more than their median employee. Mondragon generally maintains internal compensation ratios closer to 6-to-1 or 9-to-1. That's often misunderstood too. It isn't based on the belief that leadership isn't valuable, but quite the opposite. It's based on the belief that extraordinary leadership is only possible because extraordinary institutions already exist. No executive builds an ecosystem alone. No founder creates enduring opportunity alone. The institution makes extraordinary performance possible. The individual strengthens the institution. The compensation became one expression of what Mondragon believed created opportunity in the first place. PayPal showed me that opportunities can compound. Mondragon showed me that compound opportunity itself can be designed. Once I realized that, I stopped asking whether organizations create opportunity. Started asking how they design it. Since learning about PayPal and especially after studying Mondragon, I found it impossible to evaluate organizations the way I used to. I no longer stop at asking whether an organization is successful, because success matters, but it's not enough. Today, I ask 3 questions, then really the same 3 questions every time. First, where does this organization create opportunity? Every successful organization creates opportunity somewhere for someone, for customers, for employees, for owners, and for suppliers, for their surrounding community, hopefully, sometimes for an entirely new industry. But opportunity isn't one thing. It can be knowledge, it can be relationships, it can be credibility, ownership, it can be experience, trust. We talked about that with PayPal. Capital, it can be influence. The question isn't whether opportunity exists. The question is where it exists. Second, does that opportunity compound? Does today's success increase tomorrow's opportunity? Or does the opportunity largely end when today's work is finished? Does one successful founder create 10 more? Does one great school produce generations of leaders? Does one thriving community increase its own capacity to thrive? Some opportunities produce outcomes. Others produce the conditions for future outcomes. That is compound opportunity. Then there's the third question. That one has changed my thinking more than any other. When opportunity compounds, who gets to participate in it and at what level? Please notice what I'm not asking. I'm not asking whether everyone gets exactly the same outcome. I'm asking something much more structural. Who gets to participate in creating tomorrow's opportunities? Who develops ownership? Who builds relationships? Who earns trust? Who allocates capital? Who helps decide where the next opportunity flows? Those questions have changed the way I think about almost everything. Whether I'm joining a board or whether I'm making an investment, whether I'm taking on a client, whether I'm saying yes to an opportunity, I find myself asking these three questions. Not because they give me all the answers, but because they force me to think beyond today's outcome. Because I no longer see opportunities as isolated events. I see them as systems. Some systems create opportunities that disappear. Some create opportunities that compound. When they do, how that participation is structured matters. That's why I believe institutional design really matters. Not because design guarantees success, nothing guarantees success, but because design determines what happens after success. It determines whether today's opportunity becomes tomorrow's opportunity. And just as importantly, who gets to participate when it does. Once I began asking that question, I found myself asking another. If we can intentionally design systems that create compound opportunity, how do we intentionally design these systems so that the people creating the value also meaningfully participate in the opportunities that value creates? That's where this conversation naturally leads us towards alignment. The longer I study organizations, the less I believe they're defined by what they produce. I think they're defined by what they make possible. A successful organization creates products. A great organization creates opportunities. But an exceptional organization, it compounds opportunity. It creates the conditions for tomorrow's opportunities. It expands the capacity of people to participate in the creation, allocation, and compounding of value. That's why I don't think this is just a business idea. It's a way of evaluating institutions, of cities, of companies, of schools, of universities, of families, of communities, of governments, even our own lives. Every meaningful decision we eventually make become a design decision. Every organization we build, every investment we make, every leader we develop, every child we raise, every institution we strengthen, they're all answering the same question. What opportunities should today's success create tomorrow? I don't think that's a financial question. I think it is a design question. Because the systems we build today become the opportunities someone else inherits tomorrow. And I believe that we have a responsibility to leave them better systems than the ones we inherited. That's why I care so much about access, about positioning, about compound opportunity. And next month, alignment. Because if we can intentionally design systems that create compound opportunity, then the next question isn't whether opportunity grows, because it will. The next question is whether the people creating the value meaningfully participate in the opportunities that value creates. That's the conversation we'll have next. I'm Kyle Webb. I believe in systems determine outcomes. The systems we inherited, they shape our opportunities. The systems we design shape tomorrow's opportunities. If this idea challenges the way you think, I'd love to have you join me for the next conversation.